You go around and do all kinds of stuff. But have you ever wondered what force lies behind everything you do, feel, want, or even dream about? If you think inanimate objects were the only bodies in the universe susceptible to the laws of motion and all their calculations and predictions, think again, because the answer might surprise you and even force you towards making your next move. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is one of the many ways man has used to explain the origins of motion, but almost all of them started associating it with magic. Although movement is not very far from being an illusion, as far as we know, it wasn't until recently the one man set himself in motion to put all things together and bring his magic down into our world. Many things have moved since Sir Isaac Newton wrote and published his motion laws back in 1687. Since then, great breakthroughs have changed the face of the Earth as well as the face of nearby planets. Even though these forces were known to man in Newton times, like the way all things behaved when external forces were applied on them, Newton worked to find a way to reach his own conclusions. Although he succeeded in his task to define his laws of movement, he didn't bother to explain what was the force that made things move. Or even worse, what was behind the force that made him move. A year before Newton wrote his laws, another brilliant man, Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, was setting the foundations to address this power, which he calls vis viva, to refer to the living force that seemed to possess objects in motion, as opposed to vis mortua, the dead force that lay dormant inside them, a force that was ready to come back to life at any time. The word energy was first used by Thomas Young, another scientist at the beginning of the 19th century. This term has been used until today, not just scientifically, but in everyday life to refer to the power that lies behind all kinds of movement. This power, although not always fully understood, has been close to man for quite a while, but for some odd reasons, nobody seemed to have associated it before with life or human activity itself. 2 centuries later, in one of his many publications, another thinker similar in genius addressed this different kind of power, a living version of this force. This man was Sigmund Freud. Though the concept was parallel in nature to the force proposed by Leibniz, he didn't refer to it as vis viva or mortua, not even energy as Young did. He adopted the word drive instead. Naturally, he used Trieb, the German version of this word, to refer to this biological force. Derived from the word treiben, which means sprout, desire, and instinct, this term was used to address an urge to act in a living organism, and more specifically in human beings. In fact, as many other psychological terms he helped to include in every dictionary around the world, the word drive has been used since to speak about the original push that sets all human beings into action. And when he said action, he meant every action, any action, and all actions, even the absence of them. Yes, in the strictest meaning of the word, this drive was the force that lay behind our need to act, and even before the need of not to act. We have come a long way from the time when we were at the mercy of a god to the point when we have managed to have some level of control over our bodies. This long trip has made a world of difference, and we owe this difference to the work of many scientists. But one of them stands over the others, like a giant. This is important because if a drive explains a human action, being another kind of energy, it has to be subjected to the same laws that govern other energies. Does this mean that physics formulae could be applied to human problems? The answer has to be yes. Energy is energy and laws are laws. And if we are consistent with science principles, then any energy has to comply with every other principle or law related to this drive. And in the same way, a motion law predicts an inanimate object's behavior when a certain stimulus has been applied to it, it would be fair to say that we could obtain a similar result if we adapt the variables considered in this law to fit those in a living organism. This would mean that any time we behave as objects, we could expect the laws that study, explain, and predict physical phenomena to do the same thing for us as well. Now, do you see the size of the doors that are about to be opened when we control the laws that run how we behave?